Okay, maybe this works. I'm having a heck of a time with technology today. Darn, when I'm so stoked to present to you. So you're on my phone. I'm sorry. The computer is acting crazy. So you're getting the light from the computer, but the phone quality. So we're just gonna run with it, I suppose. All right. Hey, I am Sarah Kesty. Sorry, let me get all the awkwardness out ahead of time. And I think I just made my computer wacky. So I'm gonna do this instead. Oh my gosh, my husband would be mortified. You can kind of see our messy shelves behind me. Yep, I'm shooting with our fireplace behind me because, that makes a good background. Anyway, hey, we're talking about attention and focus, which probably is the number one executive function that people complain about when you don't have it. And so a couple of things I wanted to get out of the way. A couple of misunderstandings. Very first, I will probably be a broken record as we go on the podcast and stuff, but please don't make fun of people who have a hard time attending. I know they're probably going to go along with it, be like, yeah, squirrel, haha. But really, truly, unless you deeply know the person and have had discussions about, their relative understanding of ADHD, it's akin to telling a kid in a wheelchair, like, haha, you can't walk. I mean, it's just dirty. We don't do that. So, there's one thing to make light of attention struggles and like, oh, whoa, like it looks like your brain went offline, but it's totally different to say like, oh, squirrel, and make fun of people for that because it can be pretty tongue-in-cheek, but it's also really diminishing the real life struggle that they have. So that's one component that I wanted to address. Another thing I wanted to address was that this is supported by brain science. So I know in executive function, we're going to talk a lot about how the skills are invisible. And so the needs are almost interpreted as behavioral choices, like, oh, you're just not trying hard enough. But again, if you take it back to that analogy of someone with a physical disability, you're telling them to try harder won't disable their legs. You know what I mean? And so if we think of it in that way, not in terms of an excuse for poor behavior, obviously we're still giving consequences. But if you're noticing that someone's having a hard time with paying attention or focusing on something, probably we need to go backwards and think, what does this person need, rather than nagging or condemning them for not having those skills right away. So, soapbox, I know, a little bit. So if you needed evidence that there is a brain chemical component to paying attention, I've got it for you. So here, no, just kidding. I'm not opening my brain. But here's the deal. If you think about it in terms of driving, and my mother is going to poop her pants over this one, but every once in a while, this very tired teacher is driving and you just kind of fall into that lull of driving and your attention's fading. That's because there's nothing new and novel to grab your attention. And there's brain science supporting that things that are new or novel or potentially dangerous or potentially have like a really high reward, like chocolate cake. Your brain gives you the chemicals you need, the norepinephrine, the adrenaline, all that cocktail of focus juice to participate in life and to watch out. So when something new and novel happens, let's say you're in that lull and you're driving and then, oh my gosh, somebody just cut you off. You're getting that whoosh, that piece, that cocktail of chemicals that's helping you focus. That's by design. And so you can feel your attention wane and then really peak at a moment where there's high stimulation. Now imagine if you weren't as receptive to that stimulation, or you needed more stimulation just to feel like you could attend in a regular way. That's a little bit like ADHD or executive function deficits, where attention is a component. So if you think about it in terms of how it impacts our kids, like we are going to see some of our kids who have a hard time attending actually seek more stimulus in terms of drugs or risky behaviors or seeking more attention in class or through, naughtiness, which makes sense if you think about it because, yeah, you're seeking that stimulation to be able to get feedback from the environment and feeling like you have the focus, the chemicals in your brain that help you get to attending. And sorry for those of you who just joined. Hey, I'm having a heck of a time with technology, so we're on poor quality for our visuals, but you're going to get sick of this mug anyway, so we'll just roll with it. So I was just reminding everybody about focus and attention are not a choice. They are certainly part of the brain's chemistry and the brain's hardwiring, which is why we see it a lot in some of the disabilities and challenges associated with changing brains, like autism and ADHD, even sometimes learning disabilities, and even poverty if you think about it, because there are some brain changes that poverty facilitates, unfortunately. So another part of why I'm so passionate about this, because I really feel like the gift of executive function hacks is a lot of the times the ticket to success for very capable kids that otherwise would be kind of held back. So, woo, I'm soapboxy tonight, my goodness. Okay, so if you are hearing yourself tell someone else, hey, pay attention or focus, that's when I need you to get inside your own head and pump the brakes a little bit, okay? And so I want you to think of two things. What behaviors are you really wanting from the person? So if you're saying, hey, focus, is it really that you want them to turn their body towards you? Is it that you're requesting eye contact? Sometimes breaking it down for a student or a child that you're interacting with is really helpful. And I know that feels like, they should know, come on. But again, if you're hearing yourself say should, that's a moment where you're bumping into a skill that they just don't have yet and we actually need to teach. So in my homeroom, I have students, I actually requested most of the students who the other teachers were like about, because those are my babies, those are the ones I want. And so they're tougher. And I actually explained it to one of the kids as, I know you're listening, but when you don't look like you're listening, then it sends me a message that you don't care about me. And he was horrified, like, but I do. I said, I know, but what I mean when I say, honey, pay attention, what I mean is I need your body facing me and I need you looking like you're paying attention. And then every once in a while you can say, hey, my brain's not online. Can I draw while I listen? And that's entirely fine. But it was really powerful for me to break it down for him. And now, I backed it up even further to say, hey, when I say good morning or hey, everybody, really what I'm actually saying, the subcontext is, hey, turn off devices, put them away. It's time to focus. And so just breaking down what I was expecting was a huge help. So when you hear yourself saying pay attention or focus to an individual, think about what you're actually asking them to do and maybe then ask for the specifics rather than this general pay attention. It's almost like saying be better. Well, where? How? You know what I mean? So if you can get more specific, you're going to get better results, and that's going to help the dynamic between the two of you. The second thing I want you to think about is think about what could be holding their attention back. So what could be impacting their ability to focus? If you're seeing like a very wiggly body, maybe a brain break's all we need. If you're seeing a very slumpy body, which is what I see in the mornings with my teenagers, maybe the melatonin's still in their brains, not letting up, and they need some movement or some social time, something more stimulating. Maybe break it up. If you've been talking a lot, have a visual or a movie, something to change up the stimuli so that it's more stimulating, and then that brain cocktail, that focus juice can really kick in and be available for them. So a couple of hacks on our end. A second thing I wanted to address with attention and focus, which really can be a major concern. Sorry if the lighting changed. The back of my computer turned off, so woo! I have like Morticia Adams eyes right now. Okay, I'm picking on myself today. That's so strange. And just, to make the invisible visible, having all these tech issues kind of dropped my brain, because usually I memorize what I'm going to say, and then all of a sudden I had the stimuli of the tech issues, and so my brain kind of erased. So I apologize. I am totally looking off screen today to remind myself. So sorry. So all right, back to it. So one last thing about attention. When you are confronting some of the beliefs that you have about ADHD, I actually had this conversation with my mom, which was really interesting because she has a neighbor who's, I think, 12 now, and he's been diagnosed with ADHD and's got some attention issues for sure with it. And she said, you know what, it's really interesting because he can focus so much on his video games. How come he can do that? But then when you try to call him away, he doesn't listen. Or when you're like, hey, it's time for homework, nope, not happening. So, hi, Christina. Good to see you. Oh my gosh, you and the babes in your picture. How cute. So if you're noticing that a kid can attend to high stimulus things, well, first of all, you're seeing evidence of brain chemicals at work. So you're seeing like, oh, well, of course you can attend to a video game. It's like boom, 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 rapid fire. The pace of interaction changes, so that it's always demanding something different of you. There's visuals. It's probably at the right age for you. So all of those things that you're seeing, and I'm saying you, but really, we don't play video games. It's the kids. But all of those things that you're frustrated about are actually evidence that the brain chemicals are working, that the child is really glued in because it's high stimulation. So that was one component of it. And then the other part was drawing the child back. If you think about, I'll be open and honest, I am addicted to chocolate. Every night, right around directly after dinner, I want just a piece, maybe 2, maybe 3, of dark chocolate. And my brain gets an actual rush of dopamine even thinking about the chocolate because I'm so excited for that anticipated reward. And there's systems inside of our brains that help reinforce that are kind of antiquated, like we haven't dropped them through evolution yet, but they're components that now we're battling in modern day. So when you're asking a child to get off his whatever high stimulation game he's on, you're asking him to do a little bit of brain battle. And there are some hacks that we can teach a kid for sure to go beyond that, and definitely praise them when they do it right, or do it the first time, or do it maybe the third time you ask instead of the 10th. I mean, we're going for small incremental improvements, okay? So that's one component that I want to address when we think about attention and kind of the misconceptions associated with it. So I want to strategize the struggle with you. I want to talk about the top tips for attention and focus. And so number one is to identify times where you are allowed to be distracted. Wait a minute. I thought we were teaching how to focus. Okay, so hang on with me. It really sometimes baffles kids to know when the pay attention times are and when the maybe not so pay attention times are. And so really delineating that and allowing a child to identify the times where he can really like zone into something or zone out. I mean, whatever is stimulating for that particular kid, then allowing that really empowers the kid to feel like he's in the driver's seat. He can make those decisions, and he has a little bit more I'm losing the word, not advocacy, but agency, agency over his own life. So that's one component that really helps identify the focus and the maybe times where I can be unfocused times. And then the second component of that is to then identify, okay, I know when I have to be focused. Like during my math lesson, I have to pay attention. I have to look like I'm paying attention. I have to sit forward and give my eyes and ears up to the teacher, that kind of thing. When you know that that's the expectation, then the next level is to say, okay, what could be distracting at that time? And then further, how can I keep those distractions away? And if it's not maybe a distraction, maybe it's a lull. So it's not a pull in attention, it's more of a lull in attention. Then maybe that's an opportunity to teach a child how to stimulate their sensory system so that they're effectively paying attention more, but without disrupting the class. So again, we're identifying the times when you need to pay attention. We're identifying the times when it's all right to be kind of off track. And then we're identifying the times that, or the reasons that we might get distracted, either high or low attention, and then addressing those. So that's strategy number one. And before I move on, I did want to share that I'm finally like doing the tech end, the back end of all of this information. And I wrote 2 articles today that I'm super excited to share. So as soon as they publish, I will get them out to you. But I've also been doing kind of the back techie end of things to make sure that I'm getting new information out to the people who could really use it. So I finally have a link up where you can actually download the first of my freebies for supporting executive function. And the first one obviously is this one, attention and focus. So you go to sarahkesty.com/attention. And then it will prompt you on how to download it. So sarahkesty.com/attention. Don't leave right now though. See, I just gave you external stimuli where now you're like, wait a minute. Okay, so one strategy might be write it down or text yourself or something like that so that you can remember, but don't lose focus on this. Okay. So a second strategy that I wanted to share with you for attention and focus is to allow yourself brain breaks. So hear me out. And actually in the bottom underneath this, I will post an article I wrote for KQED about this because I actually practiced some technology supports for using timers and apps and things like that. The Pomodoro method is something that you could Google. It's actually based on a timer that was shaped like a tomato and it's Italian for tomato. So, but the basic idea is to plan for breaks so that you're not battling your brain the whole time. Because, you know, we have limited resources. You need a break. Your brain is only like 3% of your body weight, but it takes like 30% of the glucose. And don't quote me on those percentages. I'm just trying to give you the relative feel for it. But I mean, it's a small percentage of your body that gets a lot of the energy in your body. So what that means for us is brain fatigue is real. And so if you can plan for a break, you're working within the brain system that you have, and the attention that you give during your on time is actually going to be way more effective than the attention that you give during your time where you would fight because you didn't give yourself any breaks. So I had a very pragmatic student, a student with autism last year, who said, why are you giving us breaks? This is a waste of time. We only have, 60 minutes to work and you're giving me a 5-minute break every 20 minutes. I don't get it. And so when we did the math and really watched his on and off time, we found that he actually used 50% more of the time on task when he got breaks. So it was really interesting. And of course, we went data with a kid like that because he was so linear. But it's really interesting. And there's tons of studies too to prove if you're not battling your brain trying to focus all the time, then you're actually more efficient when you are on the on times. Does that make sense? So, and why am I asking, does that make sense? Because it's not live. This is such an awkward thing. I don't know if you've ever done a live, but it is so strange to talk to a little hole on the camera. I'm getting better at it. I know my first video, I watch it and I just cringe because I'm looking up all the time. And it's not like the answers were on the ceiling. It's just kind of, I flick my face around. But I'm working on it. So I appreciate my people who jumped on board early. I love you so much because it really helps. Your feedback actually helps. It hurts a little. No, just kidding. That helps. So, yeah, we're talking about attention, and I'm having a heck of a time, aren't I? So we were talking about one strategy of using brain breaks, one strategy of making sure that you identify the struggles that you have, and then another strategy is just being open to paying attention to your attention. Does that sound crazy? So what I mean is having an open conversation with your child about, honey, sometimes I notice that, or it seems like, and really just being open about, hey, the world around you expects this, and sometimes I see you struggle with it. And what do you think you might need? And honestly, I could predict, I could delineate so many strategies. Try this, try that, try this. But really, truly, the most important strategy that I could give you is save the best for last, is to bring the kid on board. Talk about it. Trust me, it is not a surprise. He definitely, or she definitely knows that she's struggling with these things because she's probably in trouble all the time for it. So just being open and honest and saying like, hey, sweet pea, I'm noticing this. You look really squirrely this morning, or you look really tired and it looks like it's hard to pay attention. What do you think you need to make it work today? Honestly, sometimes just that, they're like, oh, you're not fighting me? Oh, okay, well, I'm going to give it, like, it's new stimulation. It's a new approach. Or they might even come up with a great solution that we didn't think about because we're adults and we forget what it's like to be a kid. Or maybe they just need to get something off their chest and address some of the emotional components that might be pulling their attention away. So the 3 strategies we talked about today with attention were super important. I would say the number one important one, though, is really to involve your child. And I know that's going to be a broken record thing that I say a lot, but involve your child. Introduce brain breaks as a positive strategy, not a go take a break / timeout, but more of a like, hey, how do you notice your body feels right now? What do you think you need? And kind of allow your child to experiment with feeling that turning point between yes, I can attend and no, I can't. And then allowing your child to ask for breaks, and maybe start at home because it's a little bit harder of a sell at school. Sorry, it is for a lot of teachers to give breaks. So maybe have your child practice at home first before you introduce the strategy at school. All right, I am so frustrated with my technology and so appreciative of you hanging out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post that KQED article that I wrote about using the different pieces of technology. Spoiler alert, there is a component in there where I biffed royally, and it was very funny to the kids. So yeah, we can enjoy a laugh at Ms. Kesty because that one was goofy. And then I will also post a link to the first freebie I have that you can get started with. And the great thing is when you get this, you will also see that it's a list of strategies, but then there's a space for the student or your child to actually interact with the information. And that way, you don't have to call it a worksheet. You can call it a think sheet or a fun sheet, or there's so many ways to spin it, or just a journal. Just an opportunity to say, hey, I know we've got these attention struggles. Let's strategize the struggle together, and here are some things to think about. Okay? So you'll notice that on the page, it's sarahkesty.com/attention. And oh my gosh, I have so many exciting things to show you and launch, and I think I'm going to do some surprises this weekend. So thank you so much for being here. Please, if you are on board with this and you like the strategy, share this, because we want to really reach the kids that need this help and the adults who love them who need this help too. So thank you so much for being here. Sorry again for the tech issues, and I will see you next week. Bye.